Patagonia, a land of extremes. Spanning the southern regions of Argentina and Chile, it is a place where towering peaks meet sprawling plains and where icy winds carve their way across pristine wilderness. But even in this land of endless beauty, a mystery is unfolding. The lakes of Patagonia are disappearing. Lakes that once stretched across the horizon, teeming with life, have shrunk dramatically or vanished altogether. To understand why, we must first look at the unique geography and hydrology of Patagonia. Patagonia's lakes are sustained by a finely balanced system of glaciers, rivers, and seasonal rainfall. At the heart of this system are the Andes Mountains, which act as a natural barrier to moisture-laden winds from the Pacific Ocean. As the winds rise along the mountain slopes, they cool, condensing into rain and snow that replenish the rivers and streams feeding the region's lakes. This process has nurtured some of the most iconic bodies of water in the Southern Hemisphere, including Lago Buenos Aires, Lago General Carrera, and Lago Viedma. These lakes have existed for millennia, their waters carving valleys and sustaining unique ecosystems in one of the most pristine environments on Earth. However, even these seemingly timeless lakes are not immune to change. Lago Cache 2, located in the southern Patagonian ice field, illustrates just how quickly this balance can shift. This glacial lake is renowned for its beauty and its unpredictability. On the surface, it appears stable, holding millions of cubic meters of water. But beneath lies a complex network of ice and tunnels carved by meltwater over time. Occasionally, these hidden pathways become the lake's undoing. In what is known as a glacial outburst flood, the pressure of the lake's water finds a weak point in the ice below. Water begins to escape, carving a tunnel that rapidly grows, allowing the entire lake to drain into nearby rivers. This dramatic event can happen in mere hours, leaving behind a dry basin where a thriving lake once stood. Such disappearances are not only startling, but also serve as a reminder of the delicate equilibrium that defines Patagonia's lakes. While these events are part of natural processes, they underscore the vulnerability of even the most robust water systems. The lakes of Patagonia are dynamic and constantly evolving, shaped by forces that remind us of the region's fragility and the intricate interplay between water, ice, and the land. This dramatic event is not isolated to Lago Cache 2. Across Patagonia, lakes are either draining rapidly or drying out entirely. But these changes don't always happen so quickly. In some cases, the process is much slower and much harder to notice. Lago Caleuhuapi was once a vast and thriving lake in Argentina, spanning over 53,000 hectares, a vital feature of the Patagonian landscape. Its expansive waters supported local wildlife, influenced regional weather patterns, and served as a critical resource for nearby communities. But today, much of the lake has disappeared. What remains is shallow, murky water surrounded by wide stretches of dry, dusty plains. Satellite images starkly illustrate this transformation, showing that Lago Caleuhuapi has lost nearly 90% of its water since the 1980s. The reasons behind this dramatic change are multifaceted. At the heart of the problem lies the Sangüe River, the lake's primary source of inflow. Over the decades, water from the Sangüe has been heavily diverted for agricultural purposes. Vast irrigation systems have redirected the river to supply water to farms and ranches upstream, significantly reducing the volume reaching the lake. As these agricultural activities expanded, the lake's water levels began to decline. In addition to irrigation demands, natural variability in rainfall has also played a role. Patagonia's climate is characterized by periods of drought, during which rivers and lakes naturally receive less water. Combined with human interventions, these dry spells have pushed Lago Caleuhuapi to a critical point. Without a steady inflow to replenish its waters, the lake has steadily shrunk, leaving behind an exposed lakebed that is vulnerable to erosion and dust storms. The disappearance of Lago Caleuhuapi has also had significant ecological impacts. Wetlands that once surrounded the lake have dried up, affecting bird populations and other wildlife that relied on these habitats. Fish species that thrived in the lake's waters have all but vanished, disrupting local food chains and livelihoods. What was once a thriving aquatic ecosystem is now a barren, dusty expanse. A stark reminder of how delicate Patagonia's lakes truly are and how human activities can tip the balance of these natural systems. Agriculture has been expanding in the Patagonian steppe, with farms depending on the region's limited water resources. This has placed immense pressure on lakes that were once thought to be untouchable. Lago Cardiel tells another story. Located in Argentina's Santa Cruz province, it has experienced significant fluctuations in water levels. Local residents have noted that the lake's shoreline is retreating year after year. While some water loss is natural due to evaporation, the scale of change suggests that the balance between inflow and outflow has been disrupted. The consequences of disappearing lakes go beyond the loss of water. Patagonian lakes are home to diverse ecosystems. Fish, birds, and other wildlife depend on these waters to survive. As lakes shrink, habitats are destroyed. Species that once thrived in these environments are forced to adapt or disappear. For example, flamingos are a common sight in some of Patagonia's lakes. They rely on shallow waters to feed and nest. But as water levels drop, their feeding grounds become too dry, and their nesting sites are exposed to predators. These changes ripple through the ecosystem, affecting not just one species, but many. Local communities are also feeling the impact. Fishing, once a vital source of food and income, has become increasingly difficult. Many lakes that were once rich with fish are now barren or too small to sustain a viable population. For the people who live here, this isn't just an environmental problem, it's a way of life that's disappearing. For Patagonia's indigenous Mapuche people, water is sacred. It sustains not only their physical needs, but also their cultural and spiritual practices. The loss of lakes threatens their traditions and connection to the land. Understanding the disappearance of Patagonia's lakes requires a closer look at its glaciers. Glaciers are like giant reservoirs, slowly releasing water into rivers and lakes. But in recent decades, many of Patagonia's glaciers have been retreating. This means less water is available to replenish the region's lakes. Scientists are closely monitoring these changes. Using satellite imagery, climate models, and on-the-ground measurements, they're trying to piece together the full picture. While some lakes vanish due to glacial outburst floods, others suffer from reduced inflow, increased evaporation, or human activity. Each case is unique, but the overall trend is clear. Patagonia's lakes are under immense pressure. The disappearance of lakes has another consequence: desertification. When a lake dries up, it leaves behind fine sediments. Winds pick up these sediments, turning them into dust storms that spread across the landscape. This process makes the surrounding land even less hospitable, creating a cycle of degradation that is hard to reverse. Despite the challenges, efforts are underway to better manage Patagonia's water resources. Local governments are working to regulate water usage, particularly in agriculture. Conservation groups are focusing on protecting wetlands and restoring damaged ecosystems. And researchers are exploring ways to predict and prevent catastrophic events like glacial outburst floods. Patagonia's disappearing lakes are a stark reminder of how interconnected our world is. Water, land, and life are all part of a delicate balance. Protecting this balance is not just about preserving Patagonia's beauty. It's about ensuring a future where life, in all its forms, can endure.